Welcome to Dark Horizon Creations. I'm Mike, and this time we're taking a look at the Spartan Collection, Series 3 Master Chief with Grapple Shot. Now, if you hadn't already, please follow, like, and subscribe to my social media accounts on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Don't forget to hit that bell icon so you get a notification of when I post new content. Alright guys, here we have the Jazzware Spartan Collection, Series 3 Master Chief with Grapple Shot. And the first thing you'll notice about this figure is that it is an identical mold to the Series 1 release Master Chief in this line. And there have been subsequent releases of the same figure. The difference is the paint apps, the battle damage, and also a slight retooling on the left gauntlet armor, his forearm, for the grapple shot to attach. You'll also notice there is no sidearm included in this packaging, which I find extremely disappointing. And they have swapped out the MA-40 assault rifle for the VK-78 Commando. So you see the figure inside the packaging. On the side panel, you've got an obligatory product shot of the Master Chief, UNSC logo down at the bottom. On the back, you've got your obligatory product shots of the action figure and other individually packaged figures in Series 3. Okay, here we have the Master Chief outside of the packaging. And I have to tell you guys, it is a nice looking action figure. The paint applications that they've applied on the figure look really nice. There's a lot of detail as far as weathering and things like that. And up close, you can see the weathering on his shoulder armor, forearm armor, thigh armor, back of the torso armor, his butt plate, his thighs here, and of course on his chest and his helmet. So a lot of nice detail, a lot of nice weathering on the action figure. And like all the figures, points of articulation, head's on a nice ball joint, full range of motion, forward and lateral movement at the shoulder, bicep rotation, double jointed elbow, wrist rotation, and pivot. His torso is on a ball joint, and I think he also has no waist swivel. Forward and lateral movement at the thigh rotation, double jointed knees. His foot will pivot, and it's on a ball joint where it'll swivel left to right. And like all of these figures in the Spartan collection, they're extremely posable. You know, they're stable. You can balance them easily. And he does have the removable thigh plate on each side to attach a sidearm if you've got one you want to attach on him. All right, let's talk about accessories. First and foremost, we'll go ahead and talk about the grapple shot. As you guys can see, it has a string attached to it with these little plastic balls on the end. So if you extend it out, it's going to stop it. It's not going to allow the string to go through it. And you can pull it back in like this. And the idea is that it clips onto his forearm like that, you know, where he can use it, and you can extend it out and then bring it back in. It's okay for what it is. You know, I get why they included it, you know, but in all honesty, it's unnecessary, in my opinion, because there's really no real play factor with this, particularly with the string being that short. You know, I could understand it like if there was a tiny magnet attached to the hook, you know, on a longer string where you could attach it to something and pose it for toy photography or something like that. You know, you can push that little ball back like that and hold it into place, but there's not a lot you can do with this. There really isn't. It's a nice little gimmick. You know, I didn't really use it that much in the game. I think it's just as good that they have it molded into his forearm, because that's actually how large it is. That entire section right here on the front that's round is where the spool of wire is located. You know, I think it's more realistic that it's this size. But for the figure, you know, and not having a way to really wind the string up and keep it out of the way, you know, I can't see keeping this clipped onto his arm, you know, when you got the string dangling everywhere. That just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I guess those of you that like to customize figures like I do, you could cut the string off, remove it, get a very long piece of string and attach to it and use it for toy photography or something, or use a wire with it. But overall, it's just, to me, it's unnecessary. Also included is the VK78 assault rifle, and I have to tell you guys, you can see that, how warped it is. This is why I complain so much. You know, if you're like me and you just collected all the action figures and you got those nice solid ABS plastic weapons, you can look at this and see the train wreck that it is. I guess I will try to take a hair dryer and superheat this and straighten it out and tape it down to this table, and hopefully it'll hold its shape. As for the Master Chief holding it, of course he can. I always turn it in an angle like this because of the way that they make the grip on it. And, you know, in poses like that, it's really cool. It's kind of difficult to get him into a realistic shooting pose because of his wrist. You know, if that wrist joint, well, let's see. I might have just fixed that. Now, if he can shoulder this into the pocket of his shoulder here where it should be, you know, but it keeps coming out of his grip. So in that regard, it's not too realistic. It really isn't. And again, those of you that collect the Action Force figures, you know what I'm talking about with the articulation. And you can see here, you know, this is where the stock of the weapon should be, in the pocket of his shoulder, even with armor. And he should be able to come up and grip the weapon and acquire his sights with it in the shoulder pocket of his shoulder. And he can't really do that. And honestly, that's frustrating. You know, the next best thing you can do is place it right here and bring it up as high as you can and angle his head over where he can see the red dot. And that's still, you know, really awkward. You wouldn't have your elbow out like that. Your elbow would be dropped down. So it's kind of a give and take thing, you know, to be able to put the weapons in their hands in a realistic shooting position. If his wrist would rotate and if I turn it like this or I turn it like this and pivot it, it will, but the wrist needs to be able to rotate at a right angle in order to achieve a proper grip on the weapon, assume a correct shooting position. And with these action figures, it seems like the best that you can hope for is to bring it up and kind of turn it sideways like this, which, you know, isn't really accurate. It's not realistic. So guys, there you have the Spartan Collection Series 3 Master Chief by Jazzware.